The charcuterie board has been taking the foodie world by storm for quite some time now. Let's put one together.
Do you break into a sweat with even the thought of having company? I'm here to help. After trying just a few of my hosting tips, you'll be more than ready to say, come on over.
A charcuterie board is actually kind of a fancy French word for cooked meat or cured meat or preserved meat. And once you put that on a board with cheeses, crackers, and other sweet and savory bites, what you have is a charcuterie board. Now you can just throw meats and cheeses and nuts and fruits onto a board, and I don't think anybody would refuse to eat it.
Whoa, no way, we are not eating that.
But if you turn it into something a little more clever, a little more fancy, your guests will ooh and ah over this appetizer that is really rather simple ingredients. So let's take a look. I've actually started this board, so we didn't have to hang out here for 20 minutes while I put it together.
Thank you!
What you want is an actual board. So here are several options. I've actually done an entire charcuterie board of this size. This is a 22 by 11. It's a really large board, and this would be for a large party. This would be kind of the main first course that you could serve with champagne or a white wine of some sort. And you would want that to be pretty substantial. But if you're just home and you're just having guests over and it's not a very big crowd, you could go with something like this paddle board, which I really love. It's kind of 12 inches square, or you could do something like this round cutting board that's 12 inches round. So that will be plenty of food for just a really nice appetizer before your full meal. All right, so then let's talk about, we have our board. What you want to do is create zones on your board. You also want to create different levels on your board.
You're not well suited for three-dimensional chess.
So what I've done is I've taken an old yogurt container. I'm not kidding. It's a glass container. I peeled off the label and I kept it thinking, this will be good for something, a candle, something. And what I've done is I've put these beautiful little wafer rolls. Aren't they cute? They stick up here and create this wonderful height, but they're also part of that sweet part. They're filled with chocolate. You can get them filled with hazelnut or other things, and they have a nice crunch to them. So I put that in the center always. Then on the sides, I will do separate bowls of olives. Why this is important is that there seems to be a very heavy divide between a black olive and a green olive. Sometimes people want just a plain green olive. They don't want like a blue cheese stuffed olive or a jalapeno stuffed olive. Those are awesome.
Jalapeno on a stick.
But they might not want that taste. So if you have different flavors of olives, which is a great idea, put them in separate bowls. I've just used cool little antique spoons I picked up at an estate sale, I'm sure, to help people help themselves right here with the olives. Okay, so now we have our heights. Then we get down to the elements on the board. So what you want to do is place your larger elements first. And back here, and I should have turned this a little better, but maybe our director can get right in here.
Next time you want to change something, you discuss it with me first, you understand?
There is a log of cranberry rolled goat cheese. It has a wonderful flavor, but you know what happens? If you have a cheese, you need to have a cracker with it.
Cheese and crackers.
So we have this goat cheese, and then I also have a Vermont cheddar on here too, that it can go with. People are more likely to put it with a cracker. You don't need a lot of cracker on your charcuterie board. People don't tend to load up on that. They like the other finger foods. So if you're gonna put a log of cheese on here and keep it in the log form, you're gonna have to have some sort of knife for them to cut off how much they want and then spread it on the cracker. So I just took a plain knife, well, it's not exactly plain, but it's a fun knife, and then people can cut off pieces or just dig into it, because once they start to deconstruct this board, you have to let that go. You have to let the beauty go and just let them tear it apart. And you will love to see what's left behind and what's not. Okay, so we now have our cheeses, our crackers, and our larger elements. At that point, you can do one of two things. You can start adding your larger pieces of fruit. Like we have some dates here. People love dates.
Bad dates.
It also goes with the cheeses. I have some dried apricots. People love these. They're chewy, they're substantial. You can make little mounds of these around your board. So I've got dates, I've got apricots, and I may add more later, but that's how I'm going to anchor in some things, because you might have noticed my river of cheese.
What's around the river bend?
I created a little pattern here by cutting my cheese squares in half and then going back and forth like this to just make it more fun. Each one of these is actually 2 pieces. So I can add 2. I just, of course, broke one.
I'm not a complete klutz, you know?
You can add to my river here, and I could use it all up if I wanted to. There's room, as long as I can just keep this going a little bit and turning it, or I can have some left over for me to snack on. So now I have my rivers of cheese. All of the structure allows me then to add the meat. So you can just take meat, and I get the deli pre-sliced. Why create that work if I don't have to? You can just put it down, or you can fold it in half and then half again, and you create kind of this little sort of a rosette or part of a rosette, and you get enough of these going and you create another river. So I've got a river on my side. I'm gonna put a little river now on your side. And you can see, as long as I set them up, they'll hold up together. I usually do about 2 at a time, just fold them in half and half again. I let the peppery, spicy part be showy. I've got them on my crackers, and you can then add a different kind of meat. You can see the rivers I have going. Here's a river of more like a pepperoni, and I can use up a lot of space and a lot of meat by putting these around things that are already there. So I'm not worried about them falling over. I've already got my olives in a nice firm container holding the meat up for me. And then I'm just adding more pieces of meat. Oh, see, that one just took a dive, kamikaze meat. I'm gonna put it over here and just keep moving it around, and I can actually repair this area over here with something else that's firm that will hold it up. Because you know, once they start to dive in, it's all gonna come apart. And they're not gonna care. People are just gonna be like, woohoo, meat and cheese, I'm going for it. So I'm gonna kind of stuff it in there a little bit better, get that going. And now I've got that part all done. Now we're down to filling in. So you can see there are some gaps here. So I can take more of the dates and I can fill in around the cheese. I can take some nuts. Oh, really important. I have some strawberries here that I've halved, because nobody wants to pick up a giant strawberry and, you know, into their mouth. So I've halved them. I'm gonna move them around on this board, take up an enormous amount of space. I also leave the greenery on there so they have something to pick up. And yes, my strawberries are touching some of the meat. It's not gonna matter. Nobody's gonna care. No one's gonna turn down a strawberry because it touched the meat. And if they do, they can move on to another fruit.
Yes, you did touch the food.
So here's a good spot. It's also a pretty spot. Now we can see the strawberry here on the edge. I've got one more. Why don't I come over here by this cheese and do a little strawberry? Okay, I've filled up more room. Now you might have noticed I have a few nuts going. I have these little antique spoons that I have probably the nicest nuts, Marcona nuts. Looks like this. They're really light and lovely. And then I have another one of these spoons that are filled with shelled, roasted, and salted pistachios. Pistachios are wonderful, but nobody wants to work on getting them out of the shell. So you want to buy any nut pre-shelled. Okay, then I have some cashews. So at this point, cashews are pretty substantial. I'm gonna grab a handful of them and I'm just gonna start putting them in empty spots around the board. So here's a spot. I'm filling in. You're noticing that with not much effort, I am filling in quite a few spots that just need a little something, something. You can put them in between. You can pile them up a little bit. People were just gonna nibble at this board. I like this look over here, so I'm gonna do a little bit more. All right, then I still have blueberries and chocolate pretzels. Now the chocolate pretzels are super fun. And because I have a spot down here on the handle, I'm just gonna run them along here. No one's going to pick up this board and move it anywhere after I've set it down. So I'm just gonna run them along here, and if someone would like a chocolate covered pretzel, it's got its own little river going right there. I can even sort of cover the handle of the spoon. Okay, that's fun. And now I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to my board with some blueberries. Now, blueberries are not something that people pick up handfuls of and just, toss them into their mouths when it's on a display like this. So I can dot them around. I can put them in little places, in with other fruit. I can just use them at will, really, because people are just gonna pick at them, or maybe just leave them alone. Have you ever been to a buffet where no one has touched a strawberry because it looked too good? That's what happens here. I've got some spots here at the back of the board. I don't necessarily want my blueberries to run off the board, so I might be a little bit picky about where I put them. And so a little bit of blueberry. Now, the final touch. You can still see little pieces of board. To make it look full, here's a secret. Take some parsley. Leave on the stem, some stem, and you're just gonna tuck that in. See how it covers up any more of the board? Here's a little spot over here. I'm just going to tuck that in. I might put 2 pieces here to make it super pretty. No one's gonna eat this parsley, or if they do, good for them. Here's a spot over on this corner that has a gap. Just gonna tuck it in. Often I will move these bowls of olives or some other fruit, move them in from the edge so they don't get knocked, and that creates a little spot there on the end. So I can fill it in. And I have a lot more of this, but I'm just gonna use what I have right now. And if I have to come back later and add more, I will. Okay, I'm down to one of them. Where shall it go? How about right there? And just like that, we have a very lush charcuterie board. There's something here for everyone. Chocolate covered pretzels, nuts, cheese, fruit, meat, olives. It's a beauty. If I can do it, you can do it. So go out and find what ingredients you would like to have on your charcuterie board. Select a board and just be brave and start putting it together. Lipstick okay? You were forming the word yes without even looking at me.
No, I look at you constantly.
See, I told you I could tinkle fast. I'm a fast tinkler. I'm a fast tinkler from Tinklersville. I have these little antique spoons that I have probably the nicest nuts. A Marconi almond, which looks like this. Not Marconi. That's a guy.
Come on over. Now go make someone feel special today.